everyone. Welcome to another episode of Soul Science with Jeffrey Fannin and Pamela Ezel here. Today, we're going to be talking about being able to have the divine shift, even the physical, to be able to provide you the desires of your heart.
That sounds a lot like miracles, and miracles happen every single day. But a lot of people want to think about letting the divine work with us and shift with us, that somehow we have to be good enough or worthy enough. We don't realize that we already are worthy enough, and that this is a divine right that is given to us, right?
That's correct. With my experiences and all the years that I've had these interactions with these amazing beings, they are filled with love. And it's that love that is creating worlds without end. They know how to command that power with exactness. And we're always worthy of that love. It's not like, if anybody has any kiddos, and we're flawed as parents to begin with, but we love our kids and we desire the best for them. And as we're told, the rain rains on everybody, the sun comes out for everybody. There's like goodness for everybody. And they're not saying, well, only you can have the rain fall on your land and you can't have the rain, the next door neighbor fall on their land because, well, you're not worthy. No, we're worthy of that love. And there's nothing you've ever said, done, or acted upon that will ever diminish their love and affection for you. And I really got that message big time when I was training in a prison. And I had shared that story with you. These women came in, and before they ever came in, the room was being flooded with the love that they had for these women. And within the hour, they literally were having miracles happen for them. So these loving beings are beings that create miracles yesterday, today, and forever. And they're willing to have those miracles provided for you as well. And I definitely do allow that to happen in my life on a regular basis. And a lot of times people feel like the only time they ask for a miracle is when they're desperate.
Right.
But that doesn't have to happen. I mean, they're willing to give you miracles all the time. Why? Because they love creating wonderful opportunities in our lives.
Right. I remember reading in the Bible, and not to make this a religious or dogma thing, but many of Christ's disciples would say, Master, how do you do all of these things that you do? And he would tell them that you can do all of these things and more. And so we're beginning to understand through science and information and so forth that that's actually occurring. Do you mind telling a story, one that you write about in your book? And you've told me this story many times, but I love this story about how you were able to attract, 50 green cars or 100 green cars? Would you mind telling that story? I think it's great. And it's a good example for right now on this podcast.
Sure. Well, I was down in Mexico rebuilding a resort down there, restructuring it. It was having some issues, some major issues. And so I already was working on the security area. I always set up security for all the different resorts on this particular beach. And then I was shifted to become the president of this resort because it became evident that we really seriously could use that support and help for that shift. So meanwhile, while I was down there working, I get this little feeling, this little tap on my shoulder. And the feeling was, next time you go get a car, go buy something green. I'm like, sure, I will. But I have zero requirements for cars right now because I got like a convertible and an excursion, and my husband had a car, and we had a whole fleet of cars. I'm like, really? Okay, next time. And so I just put it back in my head. And 6 months later, again, that tap came to my shoulder as I'm rebuilding this resort. And they are saying, okay, next time you get a car, make sure you go green. And I'm like, okay, I will remember this. Then in January, we started having hotshot deliveries done. We do a lot of messenger work all over the state of Arizona, but these were being done all over the United States. And I said to my husband, hey, baby, maybe we might like to add this to our our fleet of cars that we have to get some green cars because we're driving so much. It would be great to environmentally be conscious about making sure we're not using too much fuel and things like that. And he said, okay. So I said, let's just keep an eye on that. And well, then I finished up working at the resort at the end of February, going into March. And toward the end of March, all of a sudden we had all this extra trafficking happening with these deliveries. And I said to my husband, no, I literally went to Divine. I said, okay, I'm ready for the green cars and I'm ready for them now. And I told my husband, Uh, I have not set aside any money. I have not done any research on this, nothing. Uh, but you can take my Lexus convertible and trade her in if you'd like to and get a couple green cars. I mean, I just was like, well, maybe. And it wasn't like, I'm sacrificing here, take my Lexus convertible. No, sacrifice, screw sacrifice. You don't have to sacrifice. There's plenty for everyone and more. Truly, there really is. And so that was the end of March. And the 1st of April, we received 50 green cars of any kind of car you can possibly think of ever that has been developed. That's these specific kind of cars that are great for the environment.
And
And the,
yeah, every time you tell that story, I get the picture of this parking lot full of the green
yeah,
cars, and they're all green.
yeah, but
Yeah,
they're not. They're all
but
different
but
kinds.
it's a great metaphor, you know.
Yeah, right. And what happened is the like for example, we got any kind of car you can possibly think of, including Mercedes. And the Mercedes dealerships in Arizona didn't even know Mercedes built green cars, environmentally conscious cars. They only made 300 of them, and we received for the entire world, and we got 2 of them. But we started receiving these 50 cars every single year. We got these cars. I'm like, what is going on here? How did this happen? I don't even know how this happened, but synergistically, and we were talking just prior to this about our ability to synergistically have even more wonderful things happen in our lives by just being there for each other and mutually lifting each other up. And so I decided to do a little research and like, how did this happen? Okay, a guy received a $200 million grant from he ran E-Tech and from the federal government to test green cars because if one battery went down on those green cars, it cost $30,000 to replace. So they were doing it to try to protect the consumer. And so somebody had to test out all these green cars. And so a woman was driving around in the area up in our Phoenix office and happened to see our place and see, oh my gosh, they have all this fleet of cars. They have on-site care for these cars. They take really good care of all of their vehicles. Someday I'd like to work with those people. And this guy was saying, find somebody that can help us work with the situation. And then our main guy that was taking care of our fleet of cars started thinking, hey, I wonder if there's anybody who tests cars still, because it would be great if we could have a bunch of cars to test. And then my sister-in-law started seeing green cars going, the environmentally safe green cars, not the color green, but cars going through her city in Texas that were just doing a bunch of messenger service. And she goes, oh, maybe we could have those green kind of cars for our messenger service. And then meanwhile, I was thinking this, I had all this stuff coming through my body. And then I said, okay, I'm ready for the green cars to come now, not knowing any of this other stuff, but it was being organized and managed. And then boom, it came in. So it's important that you don't say someday, because it'll always stay in someday, and that you actually pull the plug on it and say, have it come in now and let it flow into your life. And so that's what we did. And that's what happened. It was pretty fun. It's really
I know.
fun.
I love that story. Every time you tell it, it just is so amazing, and it's like, how does that happen? But I think it really illustrates the point of this particular podcast, and being able to realize that the divine will shift things in our physical realm.
Right.
I know you have other stories, so thanks for telling that one. I'll let you get it back on track.
Oh, it's still on track. We're definitely on track.
Yeah.
So, I've shared before that I'm a very real person. And I'm very thankful for every experience that I've gone through because it helps me really understand people. Because if I was like born walking on water, I would be so disconnected with what the reality is that people go through and live in their lives. And how can I be able to know the people I work with and understand the different nuances that they are experiencing and really have compassion and understanding for them? So there was a time that I went through a very, very, very severe depression. We'll cover depression another time and all the different reasons for why you might have it so that you can be able to overcome it. And I was not able to utilize any medications because I have the genetic mutations, both of them of MTHFR. So I was suffering, horribly suffering. And I was also bedridden at the time too. I barely functioned. I had been, I just felt in darkness. For the first time, I didn't feel any connection to the divine. And wow, was that a feeling of loneliness. And I can remember going to the doctor and he says, "Oh my gosh, you look so fabulous. You look so wonderful." Don't be confused with people looking wonderful and actually being severely depressed,
Right.
because they'll put on the mask to look good in the public, right? So that you're not going to be like distracting people from what they're supposed to be doing in their lives. Do not be don't do not assume that everybody's life is going to be skippy for them. And I said to the doctor, if I look so wonderful, then why do I feel like I could cry at a drop of the pin? And I started weeping. Anyway, so he taught me about meditating and just basically thinking I'm getting better and better every day, better and better in every way, and just letting that just start to come into my body and start to nourish my body and start to bring me back up and let my body start believing in this truth that was coming into me. And little by little I started feeling some improvement. I really did. I started changing my chemistry in my body, and I had been called to a position of leadership for a bunch of leaders. I was over all these leaders in this certain area in the Tucson community and who were in charge of teaching children. And I really desired that they could be able to have something that I could put together for them because of what I had been going through. Something that every week they would have something to focus on that would bring them joy and uplift in their lives, to bless them for the service that they were providing for this community. And so I went into Plunkett office supply and I still wasn't feeling totally connected to the divine, just a little sliver of hope, just a little spark of light. And I was going in, and to do it without that was so unusual for me not to have that guidance. And so I went into Plunkett's office supply looking for some pink paper. And because the pamphlet I was putting together was called Keeping the Pink. So I desired pink paper. I thought, hey, I was working with a bunch of women actually. So I thought that, well, that would be really appropriate. And I go into Plunkett's and we're looking at, along with a person, a salesperson helping me, we looked at this whole wall of paper and it was all that goldenrod color, that kind of brash yellow color and white paper. And that was it. You know, there wasn't any blue, there wasn't any pink, there wasn't any green. That was it. And I said, I'm really looking for some pink paper. And he goes, I'm sorry, ma'am. We have these paper wars going on and there's no pink paper. And so he says, but you know what? I'm going to go look in the back and see if maybe somehow something came in. Now you're going to see me being emotional because it just is reminding me of how thankful I am about this opportunity to learn about this and how grateful I am that I've been able to come through it. And I don't have it now in my life. But so if I have any tears, it's tears of appreciation and joy. So while he was back in the back, I prayed to the divine and I said, please, Lord, please let there be pink paper back there. Please let there be pink paper back there. Not that I'm looking for any signs or anything like that. That's not where I'm coming from, but I desire it to bless these women's lives. This is why I desire the pink paper. Please let them find it. So he comes back and he says to me, ma'am, I'm really sorry, but there's no pink paper. And I said, no, that's really okay. It's really okay. And as I turned to leave, the man and I both saw that wall again, and in astonishment, that wall had changed to all pink paper.
Wow.
In fact, one box was torn open so you could see the pink paper, and I actually still have one of those pamphlets in my home to remember this. And I just was like, "Oh my gosh, what what is this?" And he goes, I apologize, ma'am. I did not see any pink paper there before, and now it's all pink paper. I mean, he was just absolutely astonished. And I was just like, I knew I was back, Jeff. I knew I was back. And I never lost it after that again.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a magnificent thing. Anyway, talk amongst yourself
So
for a
you've
minute while
got
I pull it together.
yeah, rather than just be an emotional thing, it was a pure knowledge issue as well. And
Yeah.
now that you had been on the other side of the equation and looking at that and understanding when this transpired in your life, about how those seeming miracles happen, that the divine is willing to make changes by asking, by focusing, by believing, and then going with the flow of what was happening in that moment and allowing those things to occur.
Yeah.
And I think that when we begin to understand when we're in that situation, and something comes up, that we utilize some of those techniques, that idea, and talking with the divine to help change some of these things, because other people would look at that and say, wow, that's a miracle, or oh, that's a story they just made up, and stuff like that, but it really isn't. And understanding that our relationship with the divine is vitally important, and that we have that relationship so we can put out there what it is that we desire and allow that to occur, because those miracles can and do happen every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't have to wait for something that earth shaking to happen in our lives to be able to be blessed with miracles. We can just ask. And I've got some major, major things that that have happened in my life, like children who had brain tumors and puppies who had major, major heart murmurs and stuff that were all healed, including me having brain tumors that were all healed. I mean, those things are documented. I've got
Right.
before and after
Yeah.
MRI.
I know that I was watching a video on YouTube once, and I think it's still out there, where in China they had a bunch of doctors and individuals, and they were using one of these devices where, like a mother that's having a baby, and they would put the gel on, and you could see the fetus and that sort of thing. And so they were using this device because this adult was having had a cancerous tumor, and so you could see it because of this machine and being able to look at that. And so as they put their power and their intention on there, and this is what's so astonishing, you literally, in this video on YouTube, you can see this tumor begin to shrink and then disappear, you know.
Right.
And,
On the ultrasound. It was on the
right,
ultrasound.
thank you. That's the word I was looking for, ultrasound. Yeah,
That's why we're together. We help each other.
absolutely.
So yeah, it was it was pretty wonderful. Also, there is you have the ability to literally shift things yourself. When you're connected with them, you can command, because you're talking about how Christ said, you can do everything I've done and even more in this life. And I do take that to heart. I do allow myself to have those things happen. And one time when I was in Mexico, all these things started breaking. Like my window before I went to Mexico would not roll up and down on my Lexus correctly. It would get stuck. And I was like, oh, wow, 4 hours driving in Arizona sun is like a bit much. So I kept my window up. And then as I went through the security things at the border, I opened my door to talk to the people, and the girl there was saying, why are you opening the door? I said, well, my window's broken. She goes, that's going to cost you a lot of money to get that repaired. And I remember thinking immediately, I'd like to have it repaired without having to pay a thin dime. I mean, seriously, think about how you're responding instead of like,
Right.
oh my gosh, you're right, it's going to cost. No, I would like it. I would like it, not want. I would like it repaired without costing a thin dime. Then I get to Mexico and my watch breaks, which I really like this watch because my son gave it to me. And I like being able to look at it at night because it would light up and I could see what time it was when I was sleeping in bed. And then my maid came and I was having 30 salsa dancers come and stay with me in my penthouse for the weekend to teach the people at the resort how to dance salsa and just to entertain the people. And she goes, Pamela, su máquina no anda. My washer stopped working. Like, okay. And we're trying to prepare everything. So I'm looking at this and I get this feeling, this power that starts surging in my body. I'm like, what is happening? What's going on? What's going on? What's happening in my body? And the divine shared with me, you have the power to repair all of these things now. And so I boldly, I didn't shrink back. I boldly said, the watch works now, the washer works now, and the window works now. And then I went on with my day. I didn't check any of those things. I didn't notice the watch was working, but I even forgot to tell the maid. And I go, oh yeah, by the way, the washer works now. I never checked it. I totally just knew it worked. I never checked even the window in the car until days later when I was getting ready to leave and go. I went to the border and rolled down my window and she's saying, hey, what happened to your window? How much did it cost you? I said, not a thin dime. I said, I just allowed it to be repaired. But the washer worked perfectly and worked until the day we sold the condo. That still probably works. And my watch worked perfectly. And so it's like, we have the power. Now, the reason I'm sharing this stuff is not to boast of me, but to boast of them and what they're willing to do for you. And if you don't know that this is possible, how would you even experiment with it? You just go with day-to-day stuff and think, oh yeah, okay, well, turn the page next day, turn the page next day. This life is to be filled with adventures and wonderful adventures.
Absolutely. So this has been a really fun episode to talk about, and you always have so many great stories and so forth. I love being able to do this. So please feel free to share this with other people. This may be the very thing that they actually need, and you won't know unless you share this with other people. And also, you might consider selecting the subscribe button down below so that you can subscribe and be notified when we have another podcast available. So we look forward to hosting another podcast, and have a good day. We'll talk to you all later. Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, that one's done. That was good.
How do you feel about that, Jeff? Did it smooth out for you?
Yeah, I think that flowed very nicely, and the stories were very appropriate, and I'm sure it'll get people thinking, what am I doing, or how can I enact that into my life, and that sort of thing. So I think it's a good transition. So I mean,
and all that stuff is documented. So
right.
It's not like, oh my gosh, she's just blowing hot wind up our ass.
You're not blowing sunshine up our skirt. We get it.
That's right.
All right, let me convert this and I'll text you to get back on.
Although you look better in pants than a skirt.
Yeah, I sincerely hope so. There's not a lot of Scottish in my background. So.
I was going to say, but maybe a kilt. Okay, I love you, big bye.